set, start.
Prepare to qualify. You'll never know how far we'll go. Press the pedal. Take control. On your marks, get set. You never know how far we'll go. Press the pedal. Take control. Cross the line.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Super Trofeo Season 2 here at Racing Club International. After a fast and frantic opener at Monza, the championship heads to the wide, technical expanse of Paul Ricard, a track that offers plenty of opportunities for wheel-to-wheel racing and strategy. Last time out, it was Nico Kumpu who claimed the first win of the season, holding off strong drives from Marco Badowski and Will Stevenson to take the top step of the podium. With momentum building and the field settling in, tonight's race could play a big role in shaping the early title picture. I'm John Dalton, joined by Joseph Black with Stewie behind the cameras, and of course a big welcome to all of our live stewards and you guys at home. And we're looking forward to bringing you all of the action as Super Trofeo Season 2 continues here at Paul Ricard.
Yes, well, it should be a very, very good race here around Paul Ricard, as you mentioned. So many overtaking opportunities that the drivers will have. You think about, for example, the run down to the first chicane, and I think we will now, as the drivers get underway, get a good view of this Paul Ricard circuit and exactly what they're going to be taking. So the first chicane, it's a very wide, expansive circuit. I think is one of the main characteristics, especially considering some of the circuits on this calendar. We have had Monza, to be fair, but especially considering some of the tracks that would be options around this around the world of racing on ACC especially. But yeah, loads of overtaking opportunities, runoff areas as well, pretty ample. So lots of opportunity to, even if you are scrapping hard, to run off potentially the circuit, just to try and recover something. There's no walls in particular that could catch you out. The only real thing that could catch you out is the runoff areas in the red and the blue and the main area of stripes. And well, there's not much gravel around the circuit, so if there wasn't those painful, really, red and blue stripes, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and the circuit itself. We are, well, the majority of the drivers, now all of the drivers, out on the circuit and ready to set their first qualifying laps.
Yeah, of course, all of the drivers out of the pit lane. 17 cars on the server tonight in qualifying, 15 minutes on the clock. And by the time Nico Kumpu leads the field around, it's probably going to be closer to just under 13 minutes. No tyre blankets on the Super Trofeo. Takes about 2 laps or so to get the Pirelli into the optimum window. So expect the first couple of times and first couple of laps we see to be relatively slow compared to what we're used to here. Track status fast, 19 degrees in the air and 19 degrees down on the track, as Rebound Racing Nico Kumpu will take us through a first flying lap. And as you said, Joe, a long run down towards the turns 1 and 2, the left-right chicane, as you pitch it in hard on the brakes over the inside curb on both sections. Second curbing is a bit steep, can unsettle the car, and be very careful of track limits as you punch the throttle on your run down towards turn 3. Slowing it right down now, hard on the brakes, 100-meter board, flicking it one way, flicking it the other, a dab of the brakes to shift the weight forward and kicking it down another gear as he cascades through the right, left, right section out into first gear to try and maximize the momentum off turn 5 and the sweeping turn of turn 6 and straight into 7. Again, another corner to be careful of track limits. White bollards indicate the uppermost limit. Got to keep the car on the correct side of those as we drag down now the Mistral straight up towards turn 8 at the top of the hill. Cars reaching 290 kilometers an hour. Setup dependent, of course. Lower wing profits you in this sector, but higher wing will profit you through the rest of the lap. A harder dab of the brakes than what we're used to seeing in GT3s, and a lot of understeer there. Nico dragging it all the way out to the white bollards, and now the long, never-ending turn of turn 9. The double apex right-hander, the front left, takes a beating here and setting himself up for a good run in towards turn 10. Can be a good passing place if your opponent gets a bad run through 9. Expect plenty of action down here, and again, white bollards on the outside of turn 10. Swooping through 11 towards 12 and 13 towards the end of the lap once again. Long sweeping corners. It feels like some of them go on forever, wrestling the steering wheel as Nico tries to set himself up for turn number 13. And a good run towards the line. And we should see our base kind of reference time here from the number 256. It's a 154.190 straight in. Badowski half a second off into P2. Tom Shipston 1.4 seconds off already. Andy Boardman slots himself between Badowski and Kumpu as Joe Dorber then beats Andy Boardman's time, puts himself towards the front row of the grid for a Rebound Racing lockout. And meanwhile, Raphael Huell, another driver, Joe, from last round to keep an eye on. Bit of a dark horse, kind of sat in no man's land, but still netted himself some very solid points as he took himself towards P5, just behind Joe Dorber. Actually gifted Joe Dorber the extra space, if you remember, as they came out of Ascari. Big lift from Raphael Huell on the final lap, promoting his teammate and maybe friend up to another position. Raphael Huell towards the line, straight to the top of the board. It's a 154.330. I'm wondering if maybe, Joe, tyre pressure's a little bit higher in the Oregon team car, or potentially a lot less wing for Raphael Huell, and he's very slick down the Mistral straight.
Yes, it's well, it's going to be very interesting to see the times come in. Raphael Huell only a tenth ahead of, or behind even, Nico Kumpu, only a tenth ahead of Joe Dorber behind. So top 5 separated by 5 tenths, not necessarily the closest, but not the biggest gaps that we've seen, especially considering that Romagna is 7 tenths off Badowski at this point in time, and we've only had 10 drivers set their lap times, which means we've got 7 still to go, and we've still got some incredibly quick drivers who haven't set those times yet, including Will Stevenson, who is a thorn in Andy Boardman's side, particularly over the last couple of months. But Nico Kumpu also doing exactly that, and well, improving on his lap time of 53.9 will take the number 256 up to extend that pole position gap, and that lap time just being thrown in there. The first of the 53s as Will Stevenson goes in 5 tenths behind for his first run. Not too bad, and with just under 9 minutes left in the session, we'll have to see what everybody else is able to do. The likes of Adam Romaniuk as well, hoping to improve on their previous lap times. He was 1.5 seconds off of Nico Kumpu before. We know that he can do better than that as he comes up to the line and improves by half a second, and it's good enough for 7th place. So more lap times flooding in all around the 53-54 second mark.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be one of those, Joe, where the last car to cross the line and get the last lap in theory, should be the fastest. Track status still fast. We've got one level to go until we hit optimum, and that's when we should start seeing the faster times coming through. Les Stevenson, with an improvement, puts himself up into P10, just behind Christian Benz, and just a little way ahead of Theobald Roskam now. Riding on board with Raphael Huell on the splitter cam. Looks very flat, does Paul Ricard, in every aspect. Some curbs are a little bit kind of higher than others. There's a few anti-cuts around, but as you can see, relatively smooth and simple layout here at Paul Ricard, but does catch the best of the drivers off as he heads out onto the Mistral Straight. Nobody ahead to give him a slipstream boost. I'm very surprised we've not seen Nico Kumpu and Joe Dorber teaming up together to see if they can get an improvement going on. But Huell through the first sector looking very good on his delta, up nearly half a second, and this, Joe, should be enough to take the pole position. As we head down, you can see the rev lights there flashing. Raphael Huell topped out entirely on gearing, so probably a very slick car. This one should struggle through 1 and 3, but relatively speaking, down the Mistral should be pretty good. Now into the Nightmare, double right-hander of turn 9. Still gaining a little bit of time here and there, although hemorrhaging a bit through the mid-corner towards the exit. The Delta looking a little bit down than when it once was. It's going to be a super close time as Joe Dorber throws himself towards the top end of the field with a 1:54.115 personal best of the session. Back to the pit lane he'll go. Fresh set of Pirellis, a lower fuel load as Raphael Huell wrestling the car through the long sweeper of 12 and opening the steering to 13. Just got to get the throttle down at a big moment on corner exit. That is hemorrhaging a little bit of time as he runs towards the line. Will it be good enough to knock Kumpu off the top? And it's not. P2 for Raphael Huell, a 53.977. Another driver, Joe, into the 53s now.
Yes, 53s seem to be the elusive time for a lot of them, and the time that they want to be setting with not too long left in the session now, just the 6 minutes. We will be seeing everybody trying to get in to said 53 window. 2 drivers in it at the moment, Kumpu and Huell. Huell actually pushing Kumpu a lot harder than I thought the 21 would have been capable of, as Will Stevenson having a little moment on the exit. He's one that I would be expecting to, at least by the end of the session, be into the 53s as the track evolves and the lap times drop. But Stevenson now heading through the last couple of corners. I don't know whether it will be an improvement, because that moment where he went off of the circuit could have cost him a lot of time, but the number 108 coming around the last couple of corners now, and we'll see whether it is Huell is into the pits. Lily Armstrong as well. Will Stevenson, I'm not sure whether that was a moment or whether he just decided that that was that for that push run and decided to come into the pits. Either way, he's in the pit lane now, 5/10 off Nico Kumpu. Damien Lowe in the first sector now, and he's got the slowest of all times, but 5 thousandths behind Kevin Boss. Even if he's not able to get up to the 53 times, then he's got somebody very close to his pace that he can battle with, but I'm sure he's going to be trying all by himself to try and close up that gap to those drivers right up the very top. He's got about a second that he needs to gain to catch up to Mike Redford in P12, but once he does that, he's in the running for those next few positions. Yellow flags out as that was somebody parking up to go into the pits. Kevin Boss it was, down at the straight, and Damien heading through the final sector now, and we'll see whether the number 97 is able to improve on that lap time at the moment. He currently holds a 56, which isn't too bad all things considered, but now final couple of corners for the number 97. Only Aaron Jackson and Lily Armstrong are behind him, and both of them are out of the pits and ready to set those lap times, and Lowe doesn't want to drop to the back of the field. Up to the line he comes then with a lap time good enough to beat Kevin Boss by 0.2 of a second. Yeah,
good lap time there from Damien Lowe. Lost it in the third sector, so There's still a little bit more to give in the number 97, up about half a second or so throughout the lap. So kind of expecting him almost to jump Peter Lundqvist in the 999 as well. Meanwhile, Christian Benz in the number 15 towards the top of the Mistral Straight. He goes looking rather planted. Andy Boardman following suit. I think Mike Redford in the back of shot, maybe trying to bum a slipstream essentially off Andy Boardman for free to try and gain some delta in his lap. Of course, the power of the slipstream certainly good. I'm hearing from Stewie that it was Redford leading Boardman actually, so Boardman may have benefited from Mike Redford on this lap. Not too sure Andy Boardman and Mike Redford friends outside of the server, but certainly something going on there. Maybe Andy just timing his run perfectly to catch a car as they exited the pit lane. A few more corners to go though. Andy Boardman, the number 69 Greased Weasel Racing, not too impressive in round one at Monza. Certainly struggling to come to grips with this car versus the Ginetta GT4 towards the line of go. It's good enough to improve ahead of Will Stevenson, although immediately bested. Back down a position again for Boardman, P5, Peter Lundqvist. Next car across the line up into P9. Drivers certainly adapting a little bit faster, I think, now, Joe, to these cars, getting used to the handling tendencies and finding time pretty much every lap going. And of course, the track condition improving somewhat as well. Nico Kumpu out on circuit though, not beating his personal best yet, but just over 2 minutes in quali. Could this be, and the next lap, be the run to get that time down even more and cement himself on that pole position?
I think it's certainly a perfect opportunity. Whether he takes it or not is another question, but Nico Kumpu looking once again one of, if not the quickest in this qualifying session, and he currently is the quickest in the qualifying session, but whether he is beaten is a whole different question. He heads through the final sector now, and the number 256 will come up to the line, and he will hope that it's an improvement on the 53.9. If it's anything in the 53s, I'd be quite impressed, because only he and Huell have been able to make it to those 53s as the last runs are about to begin, as the majority of the drivers are in that final sector now. And with only 1 minute 23 left in the session, it is now where they want to be setting their best lap times. Nico Kumpu around the final corner. Whether he's pushed on this lap or whether he has just prepared himself for the final lap, we'll have to see. And he's up to the line with a lap time of a 54.0, so not actually too far off his lap time, also not too far off the 53s. So a promising sign from Nico, who's now on to his final run. Just under a minute left in the session, and the number 256 looks all the way on his way to pole position.
Yeah, whoever's getting the last lap across the line, in theory, should have one of the fastest times. Nico Kumpu, as you say, Joe, certainly left it very late. A minute left on the session as he came across the line to start what will be the final lap. He did have some delta in him through the first couple of sectors, but losing it in sector 3, so maybe preserving the Pirelli tyre, trying to set himself up for yet another run. And out onto the Mistral Straight he goes, keeping it within the track limits, just about kissing the whiteboards on the outside. Peter Lundqvist calling it a day, back into the pit lane for the Swede. Damien Lowe in the number 97 also in the pit lane, but Kevin Boss still circulating, so could have a small position change down there. And looking rather close at the front between Kumpu and Huell. Joe Dorber, Boardman and Badowski, and even Stevenson throw him into the ring. They're all in that kind of close battle. Les Stevenson, P7, just a second off the top time. And then we've got close gaps between Romagnoc, Roskam and Christian Benz, and even Tom Shipston as Raphael Huell abandons his lap. That'll be no more for the German driver in the number 21. Back to the pit lane he'll go. Checker flag is out for the session. Of course, a 3-minute wait timer given to the drivers to enable them to finish their laps, but lots of cars already retiring to the pit lane. Romagnoc, Roskam, Benz will take no further part. Aaron Jackson only managing P13. He's back into the lane as well. And a big understeer from Nico Kumpu round the final corner. Has that destroyed the time? And it has. He's lost it all in the final corner. Coming into the pit lane, Joe, practicing that pit entry, which is going to be crucial today with the mandatory pit stop that we do, of course, enforce on the drivers. Tyres and fuel need to be taken. So everyone going to have to maximize their pit stop times as Andy Boardman comes to the line. Will it be good enough to make an improvement? and I don't think it was. P4, Badowski, next car through. He jumps Boardman with a 54.207. They're coming in thick and fast now. Will Stevenson, one of the last cars to run a time here. Will it be a good enough improvement for the 108? To the line he goes, and no improvement for Will Stevenson. He'll start in P6. And Tom Shipston, your last car circulating around at the moment, the RPMS Sim Sport car, the number 60, comes towards the line. Will it be good enough to push himself into the top 10? And it's not. Tom Shipston starting P11, and a rather competitive qualifying session done there. Joe, Raphael Huell fastest through Sector 1. Nico Kumpu beating 2 and 3, but by a very, very small margin. It looks like it's going to be Kumpu and Huell towards the front, but Joe Dorber for Rebound Racing, teammates with Nico Kumpu. Can he hassle Huell out of the way in the early stages to open up the race for Kumpu?
I'm sure he's going to try, and I'm sure as well that Nico Kumpu is going to try and make it as easy as possible for Joe Dorber to do just that. But we'll have to see as they head into race day. Having your teammate right up there is going to benefit you significantly, as it just gives you an advantage and an opportunity to try and defend from the drivers behind as we get a look at the drivers' standings. Nico Kumpu sitting on top at the moment with 68. Marko Badowski 10 points behind, and Will Stevenson just the one behind him. Joe Dorber on 48 ahead of Raphael Huell on 44. A lot of the drivers in and around the 40s to the 20s, with Christian Benz on 40, Lily Armstrong on 37, Les Stevenson on 34, Andy Boardman on 31, and Peter Lundqvist on 28. Les will be very happy to be above Andy Boardman at this point in time, and also to be in the top 10. Adam Romaniuk in 11th, with Peter Varga in 12th and Richard Whittle in 13th. And Mike Redford and Damien Lowe round out those who have scored points. Aaron Jackson being put in 16th, but he has the opportunity tonight to score points and take his total above that 0. As we've got 17 drivers tonight, 15 in the standings currently with points. So a lot of opportunities for those drivers to try and make an impression tonight, as Tom Shipston and Kevin Boss, the other two without points, who are looking to break their duck this evening and get points on the board here in Paul Ricard.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very tricky race ahead of the guys at the moment. Track status still fast. Temperature 19 degrees down on in the air. 19 degrees down on the circuit. And Nico Kumpu here on your screens, your pole sitter for today, lining up alongside Raphael Huell in the number 21. So going to be a straight drag race down towards turns 1 and 2. Who can get the better run? Who can avoid that first track limits warning on the opening lap? Very easy to do at Paul Ricard, with the game trying to work out the average quite early on. Always falls foul for a lot of drivers in the early stages. Of course, teammate Joe Dorber just behind in the 777. He's going to want to try and follow Nico Kumpu through on the inside of Raphael Huell. But remember, the inside does become the outside through 1 and 2. And then you've got to get a good run down to the next section of course, turns 3 and 4. Leaving yourself vulnerable out of 2 could be a hot passing place as drivers try and make the early gains that they can. Of course, Badowski and Boardman, next 2 cars on your screen, followed by Will Stevenson, a thorn in the side of Andy Boardman, and starts alongside on row 3. Les Stevenson in the number 46, no relation to Will Stevenson, just happens to share the same surname. Another Rebound Racing car that may be able to make a difference is the number 96. Again, if Theobald Roskamp pits rather late, could hold up a few rivals for Nico Kumpu and Joe Dorber if they manage to come out behind the Belgian driver. RPMS, of course, Tom Shipston, a familiar livery on Mondays. A pity no more of the RPMS crew are alongside to back up. Then we have the Kaiju police cars starting alongside each other. That's Lily Armstrong in the 88, Aaron Jackson in the 99, and that is the Senvestigation unit. So be careful because they will be watching some of the Sens going on today, much like our live stewards, who are, of course, next door to us. Mike Redford, Kevin Boss, and Damien Lowe round out the grid, and Mike Redford's distinct colours, always a familiar sight on Mondays, and Kevin Boss, of course, with his unique set of colours alongside, and then Damien Lowe at the back of the grid, the number 97. But on qualifying time, should in theory have battles up and down the field today. Of course, the front kind of 5 or 6 normally break away. We then have the kind of awkward midfield between kind of 7th and 13th, 14th, say, and then the kind of back runners all having their own fight as well. So should be plenty of action on the broadcast today, and we'd like to welcome you for joining us during this pre-show on the run-up to the race. Partners revolving around bottom left-hand side. It's a good time to get these out of the way before any action does kick off. Ready, Set, Sim, where you can build your dream sim rig in seconds with their sim rig builder. Their mission being to simplify sim racing by providing a comprehensive and personalized experience, whether you're a novice looking to get started or an experienced racer seeking to optimize your setup. And not to forget mentioning, of course, the €400 prize pool offered alongside our RCI trophies. That's on the RSS Endurance Series. You can find more information on the website, racerci.com. Coach Dave Delta, faster lap times start with Delta, a setup and data analysis app for iRacing, ACC, LMU, and even Gran Turismo 7. Available in 9 languages, giving you the access to setups, racing lines, and data analysis. Why not stay ahead of your rivals with Delta? Check the link in the description and take your racing performance to the next level. Greenman Gaming, where you can buy games and game keys with Greenman Gaming. Get the best prices, awesome bundles, and exclusive game deals daily. You can find our affiliate link down below for any future purchases. And I know a lot of people have already taken advantage of that one, so we thank you very much indeed for using our link. IMB Racewear, who of course sponsored our community series not so long ago, providing fully custom designs to allow sim racers and real life racers to make the impact they've always wanted in their clothing. From gloves to socks to jackets, you can be sure that every piece is crafted with precision, style, and performance in mind, giving racers the confidence to stand out both on and off the track. Moser Racing, who we partnered with just last year, a leader in high-quality sim racing gear. I'm sure they need no introduction to anybody watching the broadcast at the moment. They have everything to boost your racing experience. Check the link in the description and take your setup a step higher. And not forgetting, of course, Motorsport UK Esports, where we're a recommended community, giving us perks like being able to reach out to a wider audience for our races. And I know a lot of the iRacing crowd for the RSS Endurance Series, I believe, did come from their Discord. So thank you very much indeed for that one. All of the RCI links also down below. That's Discord, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where you can find out all the exciting stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And we are looking to become more active within the social media scene this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. I believe a few posts already going out. World Tour, remember last week the shuffle was announced that we were going to open up to one-off entrants, much like the GT World Challenge with the Intercontinental rounds. The remaining 3 rounds will be converted to a different style to allow less restrictions on driver rosters and making welcoming in new teams a lot easier. So why not head on over to the website and get your name down. Round 2 takes place on the Nordschleife for 24 hours of GT3 racing. That's happening on Saturday, May 17th. And we've got a car deciding to take the chicane route of the Mistral Straight. I think that's Will Stevenson, maybe, and one of the yellow Lamborghinis in the background there, as drivers seek to gain as much tyre temperature as possible. And lastly, but no means least, RCI calendar this week. A little bit quieter with Le Mans Ultimate LMGT Sprint Series on a break. We go straight into Saturday with Nadal Hyper Sprint at Fuji Classic. That's missing out the awkward 11 and 12 with a flying run through the bottom end of the circuit. Should make for some rather interesting fights, Joe, like we're going to have tonight, hopefully, with 17 Lamborghinis when we unleash them under the green flag in a few moments' time.
Yeah, it didn't quite get the same reception as when Ash Bibby is behind the cameras, but that's all good because, well, the producers do thankless work, so I will provide the thank to Stewie, who is behind the cameras today. But, yeah, the driver's getting ready to get going here for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo here tonight. And, well, it should be a very, very good race. Will Stevenson, of course, taking that GP section in the chicane. It's just a long straight, so no need to do just that. But, yeah, drivers sorting themselves out as they head to the race session now. And Nico Kumpu will be leading us away in just a couple of corners' time. They're all eager to get going, and they're all eager to show us exactly what they can do in these Lamborghinis. And just one more corner to go now before the race gets underway. And all the drivers so desperate to get going. Nico, it's down to you as to when we go, and it looks like we are about to get going now. It's action here in Paul Ricard, and Nico Kumpu is gonna lead us away right about now. As yeah, there we go, green light, we get the message, and the race is underway. Nico Kumpu taking a good start, but not such a great start for Raphael Huel. He's got Dorba and Badowski for company as they head down to the first corner, and he's been squeezed into the middle. That is Marco Badowski going up into second place, and well, that is going to be Raphael Huel dropping down to fourth place. Nico Kumpu holding on to that lead in the background. There's a couple of drivers scrapping over positions. I believe that's Will Stevenson losing the position to Les. So the two Stevensons side by side. Will later on the brakes getting through. Late braking move down near the bottom of the field from a couple of drivers who are making huge sends. But in the end, Nico Kumpu sits up right up the very top of this field, and some of the drivers very racy early on.
Yeah, absolutely so. Nico Kumpu with a fantastic start. Raphael Huel getting swallowed up by the next two rows alongside him. Made it very tricky through turns 1 and 2. I think Aaron Jackson spinning out of turn 2, one of the Kaiju police cars, towards the back of the field now as well as we head up towards turn 8. Andy Boardman looks to the outside of Les Stevenson, tries to do the old up and under, and I think he's got it done. He's carried much more momentum through turn 8, and the move is already done by turn number 9 as drivers begin now to seek their single file. We've got a car on the high side of turn 9, looks maybe like Mike Redford from up here in the box, and everybody trying to find their feet. We've still got the battle of the Stevensons on the circuit. Les trumping Will at this moment, and it was a rumor a while ago that Les may be Will's father, and we'll have to see if any fatherly orders come in here as Les runs himself a little bit deep through turn 12. It opens up the inside to the number 108, but the outside quickly becomes the inside for Les, and he's safe for another corner as everybody manages to complete lap 1. Nico Kumpu leading, Marco Badowski in second, Joe Dorba just behind, and Andy Boardman dropping off the lead trio somewhat. Holding up maybe Raphael Huel in his endeavours. Will Stevenson too late on the brakes, has to take avoiding action to avoid hitting the back of Les, and says, you know what, I'm just going to cut turn 2 completely, and that might be a bit of an unfair advantage gained, although the gap looks like it does remain about the same as when they crossed over the line. Will Stevenson lifting as he did cut the chicane, so doing the honourable thing and allowing Les to keep P6 and maybe sizing himself up for a move down the Mistrals. We're going to see the first kind of slipstream battles happening. Will we see any bump drafting like we saw at Monza? That got the stewards looking into a few cars as Will Stevenson just about, I think, manages to keep it the right side of the bollards, and you can see the train in the background snaking, everybody sticking to the right hand side of the circuit. Les Stevenson is your captain at the moment. Will just behind, Adam Romaniuk just behind over the top of Will's car. You can see him in the white number 29, and nobody brave enough to pull out just yet, Joe. A move around turn 8 is very hard to keep, and Raphael Huel, wrong side of the bollards, could be the first track limits warning for the number 21.
Yes, and well, all the drivers close together at this point. They're all just sticking with each other here in Paul Ricard. Will Stevenson right all over the rear of Les, the number 108, looking for an opportunity to take that move. He knows that at some point soon he is going to have to get a move on because he feels as though he's quicker than Les, and Les 1.2 seconds back from Raphael Huel. I think Will has a sense of urgency about him in this one, as he just really wants to get past and start to attack Huel and Boardman in the little mini pack that's been created up ahead. The end of the second lap, Nico Kumpu heads up the field and takes us to the second lap of this race. Looking back at Peter Lundqvist, who's defending the position from Lily Armstrong, and at the moment has been successful. Also looking to try and charge and attack Roskam up ahead, and will be closing. The inside line beckons for the number 999 down the inside, but just backing out of it, decides not to make that move for the time being, as Roskam just outbrakes himself a little bit too much, but able to recover.
Yeah, Roskam, though, with a poor exit through turn number 5. That's going to Constantina the field up behind Peter Lundqvist. Lily Armstrong also in the pack. Mike Redford just off the back of these guys, rubbing his hands together, thinking if something happens, could be 3 places gained here. Meanwhile, towards the front, Andy Boardman and Raphael Huell. You can see how quick Huell is in a straight line, making full advantage of that low wing setup. And now we've got Roskam coming under fire from Lily Armstrong on the left. And I think that's, that's Lundqvist on the left and Lily Armstrong on the right, and there's contact into the back of Roskam. Roskam spins out onto the white stuff, blue stuff. Lily Armstrong all the way through the red stuff to turn number 9. That's a very interesting line I've never seen before. Hopefully not too many track limit warnings kicking up there. Meanwhile, Boardman still behind Huell. There's a wobble there from Huell, though, as they come out of turn number 10, and Huell giving the position back almost to Andy Boardman, maybe sensing something could be wrong, or he's just not happy with how the car is feeling at the moment. And he's going to have to do that all over again down the Mistral. But we know how slick the number 21 is compared to Andy Boardman. There was a debate in chat earlier on who was using what level of wing. Some drivers opting for the lowest wing possible, others wanting to crank it all the way up to get some stability into the back of the Lamborghini. Drove the car earlier on today, and it's much like a GT3 car in the way it handles, but it snaps so much more violently when you overdrive it, including lots of understeer and even rear brake locking if you're trying to be brave on the old trail braking side of things, especially into turn 9. It's very easy to upset the back end of the car there, and Raphael Huell finding out of 10 equally as hard to catch once it does go. Badowski, though, within slipstream range this time of Nico Kumpu and the number 256. Well, at least at the start line, he was under half a second. Slipstreaming kind of begins at around 0.6 within the ACC realm. So it's good to note any time gaps there and who's going to be benefiting from what. Lily Armstrong, though, this time onto the back of Kevin Boss. Hopefully we're not going to see a repeat of the Roskam incident. The live stewards will be looking over that, and you can see how fast Lily Armstrong's car is, reaching the top speed much before Kevin Boss, giving him a little bit of a bump draft as they head down towards turn number 8. Looking up the inside is Armstrong, although thinks better of it, tucks back in behind Kevin Boss, and these guys will go for another lap together. Meanwhile, Will Stevenson and Les Stevenson equally driving each other up the banking of turn 9, trying to pressure each other into making a mistake. And in the background now, Romaniuk and Christian Benzjo making this a 4-way train.
Yes, a 4-way train, which means a 4-way battle for position, and Will Stevenson still not able to get past Les. We get a race replay here of the Thibaut Roskam incident, just outbraking himself. That's all it was, just clean out braking himself, and I'm sure he'll be getting penalties heading his way very soon, as of course we've got our live stewards who will be reporting on incidents as they happen. Christian Benz getting overtaken by Romaniuk, or potentially trying to go for the move. Either way, Romaniuk holds on to 8th for the time being, and Benz forced to sit behind in the number 15 as he, again, it's another driver, feels like he is quicker, and there's 2 of those in this field now, even in this small little battle going on. The 2 Stevensons, Romaniuk and Benz, Will and Christian, will feel as though they are quick enough to take the positions up ahead, and Will all over the back once again of Les, but Les has been soaking up this pressure pretty well, and well, with 2.1 seconds the gap up to Raphael Huell, this could be race defining for Will, and I don't know whether he'll be able to catch back up. Of course, pit stops will offer him the opportunity to, but if it keeps going the way it is at the moment, Will Stevenson is going to get stuck in that battle for P6. This is the battle for the top few positions, and more specifically the battle for P4. Raphael Huel getting back ahead at Andy Boardman, and he's back up into fourth place. He hasn't quite had the race pace to match the top three, but he stays in position as Will Stevenson. Still trying to shape up a move on Les, running himself wide in desperation to try and get past, but no such luck.
Yeah, no such luck indeed. And looking towards the Monday Gang voice chat, something that Tim Ireland incorporated in one of his seasons. It's a bit of a more social side of the RCI on Mondays here. We've got Raphael Huel, Aaron Jackson, of course, Lily Armstrong in there with Kevin Boss and both of the Stevensons. So they are both in cahoots, should we say, with each other. So I'm sure they're going to give each other a heads up if something is about to go wrong, especially if Will is going to outbreak himself. I'm sure he'd yell quite loudly in the direction of Les. Meanwhile, your lead trio down into turn one. Once again, it's reached a little bit of a stalemate at the front. Nico Kumpu still leading. The gap coming down ever so slightly in the last lap to Marco Badowski. Joe Dorber clinging onto the back as well. Probably going to just play his cards at this point, I would say, Joe. Just, holding on to what is P3. It's going to be a good points haul for Joe Dorber, especially coming out of Monza P4. So could fire himself forward in the championship, especially with Will Stevenson being back down the order. Like you say, will he be able to turn it around in the latter half of this race? Track limit's going to be a key thing to keep an eye on. That's something else drivers can fall foul of today. So first drive-through penalty we see on the board will be for track limit stewards not giving out any drive-through penalties in their new rule book, just time penalties. So that's very easy for us up here in the broadcasting booth to keep an eye on. And you can see Nico Kumpu certainly faster down the straight, Joe, but Badowski much faster through some of these corners. So I think we're seeing the kind of min-max wing strategy going on here.
Yes, I mean, it's a very interesting strategy as Will Stevenson gets past Les and runs himself off the circuit. Back through goes Les, and Will, who will be annoyed at that one, would have felt as though he had that position, but had to hand it back. But yeah, it's very fast down the straights. It's a very interesting thing in Paul Ricard especially, where it's just the setups can be so different, but also somehow so similar in so many different aspects in the final sector. All of the drivers are now, as the only drivers off of the pack really are Roscombe and Lowe, and they're not too far off, 4.6 seconds off Jackson. So the fact that we managed to do that with still only 6 laps gone is very impressive. Romagnoc coming under pressure from Benz, but now trying to attack Will Stevenson, who's made mistakes on the last couple of laps and who's made big sends. But at the moment, Adam Romagnoc in P8. He wants that position further up, but I think at the point he's at, he should be happy to be ahead of Benz, and I think he should wait for Stevenson to get past the other Stevenson of Les, because if Will opens up an opportunity, Romagnoc can then pounce.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if I was in the number 29, I would be doing just that, waiting for Les and Will to trip themselves up on each other, and then kind of sliding on through that spare space that inevitably will be. Like we saw at turn 9, of course, Will got past Les. Will ran himself up the banking of turn 9, out of track limits, allowed Les to go back through once again. So all Romagnoc has to do is just wait for that to happen a few more times, and I'm sure he'll be close enough to capitalise on that one. Christian Benzo, big gap behind him to Mike Redford, 2.5 seconds separate the 15 and the 95. So, I mean, Christian Benz in a bit of a good place at the moment, just has to kind of keep focus with the back of the pack. And as we see here, Tom Shipston coming under fire from Lily Armstrong. No, sorry, that's Peter Lundqvist in that one. The timing tower doing me a bit dirty there, and up the inside goes Lundqvist. Shipston will have the inside line for the next corner of turn 10, and he brakes a little bit later, gets the car over lap, parks it on the apex and nearly loses the rear end. That brings Lily Armstrong now into the fight on the back of this queue as we ride on board with them towards turn number 12. The fastest hands in the West, probably one of the fastest controller drivers within ACC that I certainly know of. And they all fall back into single file come turn 13, and a better exit from Shipston and Lundqvist breaks the gap a little bit. Meanwhile, Romaniuk darts out behind Les Stevenson. Les very late on the brakes, runs himself too deep through turn 1. He's going to do a Will Stevenson, cut the whole of the second and try and bring himself back into line. Let's ride on board here. That was far too late, nearly into the back of Will Stevenson, straightens out the steering and through turn number 2 he goes. Romaniuk now, as we predicted, Joe, another position gained. Stevenson, that's Will, breaking ahead at the head of the field, and now Christian Benz all over the back of the number 46 as we head out of turn 5 onto the Mistral.
Yes, well, at the moment, these drivers still all scrapping away. Les Stevenson dropping a couple of positions, could be dropping another one here as Adam Romaniuk is being closed in by Les, but not by enough. Romaniuk 8/10 as well behind Will Stevenson, and Les trying to close in, cannot quite get up, but he is right up now as he heads to the second half of the straight, so he was nowhere near, but as he got into the slipstream, as it pulled in, he was able to reel in Adam Romaniuk, but not quite close enough to make the move. The straight wasn't quite long enough for the number 46, and so he's forced to sit in behind, and well, he now has to wait for probably another couple of straights, because he does seem to have that top end speed that some may be missing. Christian Benz now trying to take advantage of Les Stevenson setting up for those straights and trying to get through in the corners, but at the moment no such luck, and they will head through onto the 7th lap of this circuit, or the 8th lap even of this circuit, with Stevenson leading Romaniuk, leading Stevenson, leading Benz, but they are all close together. They are all getting ready to scrap.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's sizing itself up, isn't it, to be a good evening of racing. Pit window is open, just under 43 minutes to go on that one. Quite a wide pit window today, and for the rest of the season, actually, 57 minutes we're giving the drivers to come down the pit road. We typically see drivers maybe split the race in half if they're taking tyres. If they don't plan to take any tyres, you'll see lots of cars running themselves very deep into the stint. We expect to see everybody down the pit lane in the final kind of 2 minutes is usually what we see, although we do of course have a mandatory tyre change and a litre of fuel to be added, so everybody on the same preset today. It's going to be who can get the car in the fastest and who can get it through the sequence and out the other side even faster, as Romaniuk comes under fire from Christian Benz, the number 29 and the number 15 all over the back of each other, and you can see there a bump draft from Christian Benz. He's trying to get Romaniuk to the back of Stevenson. He pulls out to try and box Romaniuk into the back of the number 46. Les pulls over to the left to try and defend from Christian Benz. Romaniuk puts himself up the inside, opens the door. Christian Benz also wanting to find a way through, but can't. Les Stevenson covering off the inside line on the corner exit and into turn 9. Romaniuk runs himself up the banking like we saw with Will Stevenson. Now Les pulling himself back alongside. The inside becomes the outside as they head into turn 10, and Romaniuk with a bit of a rub on the number 46. That forces Les wide, opens the door once again for Christian Benz. Les slots back in behind Romaniuk, almost pushing him around turn 11, and he does into 12 as Romaniuk touches the brakes. Les turns him around, the number 29 off into the red stripes. Lots of time lost there. Let's catch a race replay, and you can see the momentum that Les carried out of 10. It was so much faster than Romaniuk, and so close that by the time Romaniuk hit the brakes, Joe, Les didn't really have a lot of time to react to that one.
No, he certainly didn't, and that's the problem without breaking yourself. Then you are just in a whole world of trouble. And Adam Romaniuk dropping down to 13th place now and coming under pressure from Kevin Voss. But this is not where he would have wanted to have the fight. He would have been in that fight for P6. Alas, he drops down to 13th place and looks as though he may be scrapping over that for the rest of this one, as Marko Badowski closing on Mikko Kumpu and trying to take that race lead away. The top three still sticking together. Don't forget as well, Raphael Huel, he is closing that gap up to the top 3, and he's certainly going to try and involve himself in this battle. It was 2.2 in the last sector. Jumped up a little bit to 2.4, but that's because they've all got the slipstream and they will get the dirty air through the corners. And this is where Raphael Huel dream, and they will get the dirty air through the corners. And this is where Raphael Huel can certainly try to take advantage. You can see the pink car of the number 21 in the background.
Back of the top 4 and managed to jump a few during the pit stops and ultimately gave one back to Joe Dorber towards the end of the race. So Huel certainly has it in him to stick with these top 3, although a little bit far off the back. And like you say, with the slipstream working between them at the front, will Huel have enough in him to draw himself up onto the back of these guys? And a good note to mention about the wing trade-off, of course, is the tyre longevity that you'll get with this. The much slicker kind of low wing cars will be, squabbling for grip and trying to find anything they can to drive themselves off the corner. And especially in these dirty air scenarios, the low wing cars are going to be very unhappy following in the wake of another car. However, if you've whacked the rear wing all the way up to the top end, of course, you're going to be benefiting somewhat through these corners, especially in dirty air. The trade-off down the straight isn't really going to be all too worth it in the end, as Les Stevenson tucks into the back of Christian Benz in the number 15 as they head out on to the Mistral Straight. I'm not sure if he'll be close enough to Benz to make a difference, but Mike Redford in the back of the shot up into P9, Joe. That's rather surprising, seeing as, of course, he qualified, I think it was about P15, P14, towards the back end of the grid. So good gains early on from Mike Redford. He's just got to carry it on now for the next 39.5 minutes.
Avoiding everybody on lap 1 tends to be the way to go, as later on in the race there's a little bit less drama. However, there could be drama here with Les Stevenson trying to pull to the outside. Little bit of bump drafting towards the end of the straight, and that may well have caused Christian Benz to go wide. Misses braking point slightly as he was trying to avoid Les, but now the number 46 holding that inside line through the long sweeping corner. It was so tense, but he didn't quite have enough of a run to make the move stick, and now Christian Benz holds on to that position, and Les Stevenson forced to sit behind for a little while longer as the two Calliu police cars are 12th and 15th. Lily Armstrong the lead one with a 10-second time penalty, but I'm sure she's still going to try and race in this one, as the higher she can get up the field, the bigger gap she has to the cars behind, and therefore the higher position she will be able to finish in. She's right on the back of Peter Lundqvist now as they head down the main straight.
Yeah, Lundqvist having to make that Lamborghini rather wide in the next few laps or so if he does want to defend from Lily Armstrong. Meanwhile, Badowski tucked under the rear wing of Nico Kumpu. You can see how close they are on the splitter cam there, riding on board with the number 45 Team Monkey Racing entry. The first of the pit stoppers, though, Adam Romaniuk, after the earlier on spin with Les Stevenson, electing to come in. He'll take the fresh set of tyres, top up the fuel, and on his way he shall go, trying to get the old undercut done on that one, seeing if he can capitalize any more once other cars start coming down the lane. And as you said, Joe, Lily Armstrong, 10-second time penalty. That's, of course, for the contact, lap 3, turn 10. That's involving Theobald Roskam in the number 88, the number 96, if you remember earlier on, Roskam being turned around and out to the outside of turn number 8, and everybody getting a little bit dicey as they head through turn 9. Badowski runs himself wide. Joe Dorber now up the inside, which will of course become the outside for turn 10, making it rather awkward for Badowski to try and attack the back of Nico Kumpu. So Dorber doing everything he can to try and keep the number 45 away from the number 256, and I think he's done just enough for Kumpu to hold on through this final sector. Meanwhile, I think we've had contact between Boardman and maybe Will Stevenson. We've caught the tail end of it here. Andy Boardman losing it on his own, we think, out of turn number 9. There goes Will Stevenson. So yeah, no contact between the two. Boardman, I guess, just lighting up the rears as he came off 9, turned himself around to the inside, and luckily with the big runoffs we've got here, no further contact with the wall. And Marco Badowski wants no part of the rebound racing sandwich, Joe. He is the first driver in the top 5 to take a pit stop, so we'll have to see where he comes out, and will he be hindered by any traffic as we catch a race replay from Lundqvist and Lily Armstrong. That's one big bump draft as we head down towards turn number 8 at the end of the Mistral.
Yes, these battles heating up, just like this one between Kevin Boss and Aaron Jackson. Aaron Jackson taking the inside line, Kevin going the long way round, and this could be Thierry Roskam going through as well around the outside later on the brakes and making the move. So Aaron Jackson losing 2 positions in the space of just the 1 sector. Marco Podolski in the pits, and well, the pit window is open, so this is his one and only pit stop in this race, and going for the aggressive undercuts on Kumpu and Dorba, with Raphael Huel closing into the top pack. The other Kalyu now, as one lost 2 positions, one looks to gain. Lily Armstrong getting into the slipstream of Lundqvist, pulling out and making that a pretty simple move, as Shipston and Redford side by side up further up, and it's Shipston who takes that 7th off of Mike Redford and moves up in the number 60 into that 7th place. And well, we could be seeing a couple more pit stops this lap, as well, I think potentially someone like Aaron Jackson, who's not had the greatest of last laps, will be diving into the pit lane, because it just resets their momentum. It gives them a chance to drive more by themselves in this race more than anything. And well, yeah, it's a great chance for them to just take a little breather from this race. Of course, they have to take fuel and tyres as well, but around the final corner they will come. I'm not sure whether anybody is in fact going to come into the pits on this lap. So Podolski and Bourman going for the undercuts, Romaniuk as well, and so they come around the corner to start their 13th lap on still the same set of tyres.
Yeah, absolutely so, and we're very well predicted there. Aaron Jackson almost maybe listening in to us here in the commentary booth tonight. Down the pit lane he comes, pulls himself out of the fight with Roskam. Of course, a bit of a mental reset, as you say, Joe, and interesting to note, Marco Podolski came out in P15 overall, and he's currently making his way around the last corner, top right-hand side of your screen, near the start-finish line. He is in absolutely clean air right now. He's got nobody ahead, nobody behind. He can literally look out the windscreen of this Lamborghini and just pound in those fast lap times and try and capitalize as much as he can. Meanwhile, of course, Kumpu and Dorba maybe holding each other up in each other's dirty air, maybe underdriving the car somewhat, knowing that the teammate is behind and there's going to be no silly moves made. Raphael Huel 1.2 seconds off the back of them, and then the biggest gap we've got, Will Stevenson, 14 seconds, Joe, off the top 3. It's going to be a very big ask for the 108 to make up any positions today, as Theobald Roskam slipstreaming Kevin Boss into turn number 8. There was definitely a lift from Roskam as Boss went defensive, not wanting to run too closely to the number 31 just ahead. And this battle, of course, rages on. Neighboring countries, Belgium versus Holland, in this current setup. So be interesting to see which one will prevail here, as we see a few more time penalties coming through from McKenna McConnell. Their team, of course, holding it down tonight in the steward's box. A few for racing incident, minor contacts. We've got the 46 and the 29, no further action, minor contact. But we do have the penalty for Les. It's an incident involving the 29 and the 46, lap 9, turn 14. It seems to be an off-cut of the no further action report just above it. It's a 10 seconds for Les Stevenson for avoidable contact. That was, of course, when Adam Romaniuk went backwards over the extra runoff earlier on. So Les being dealt the 10 seconds there. And any time penalties must be served in the pit lane if given before the mandatory stop has been done. Anyone with the mandatory stop done after receiving a time penalty will be tacked on to the final race time. So we might see a few positions shuffling around come the checkered flag. Kumpu and Dorba, though, definitely dialing down the pace, Joe. As expected, Raphael Huel now was within 9/10 of a second. That gap's just gone up to 1.1 seconds as Kumpu runs himself wide. Joe Dorba sneaks up the inside, and the rebound racing changes at the top of the field. And I wonder if we'll see team orders once Raphael Huel's disappeared. Maybe we'll see the cars switch back around. But for now, Joe Dorba to the lead. Nico Kumpu P2. And Raphael Huel has closed up that gap, something rotten. It was 1.1 seconds over the Sector 2 timing gate. It's now got to be, what, half a second, 0.4 of a second maybe, looking at the gap here. And we'll get another update as they come across the line. But all shuffling around in the top 3.
Yes, with Raphael Huel having closed in, his mission has been successful and he's right up in with the top three. But no, he comes into the pit lane. So after all that momentum, all that fighting up, he decides to take the plunge into the pit lane. The two Rebound racing cars continue on in the lead of this one, and we'll see where they end up coming out in relation to the rest of those top battlers. We'll have to see whether they are able to do so, as that is Lily Armstrong almost into the back there of the car in front, and they are side by side as they head into the pit lane. We'll watch a replay here of Lily Armstrong out of the final corner, and does she try to Sebastian Vettel style steal the position or just miss her braking point? I think she just missed her braking point, but this would demonstrate that maybe not. But they've filtered out okay in the end. Lily Armstrong not going into the side of Mike Redford, I think it was, or the back, even as there's a move there for a car being lapped. Aaron Jackson dropping down a position, and now he is being lapped by the cars in front. But that's what's going to happen. That's the nature of a race like this, where if you come in, it's going to be difficult. But I am being informed that that is not one of the two leading Rebound racing cars. That is the one at the back of the field, Thierry Roskam, or Thibaut Roskam even, so apologies there, and I've just got his name wrong for good measure. But the top two Rebound racing cars at the moment, so much quicker than the rest of the field. Ben's 17.5 seconds back, as the two cars that were bridging that gap, Huel and Stevenson, have come into the pit lane, and it'll be interesting to see where they come out. Badowski out ahead of Huel, as this is carnage into the first corner. Aaron Jackson just caught up in it as he's right in behind. I think that was Stevenson coming out of the pit side by side with Romagnuc. But in the end of it, they are filtering through as they should be. And, well, Roskam making his way up to 14th in the meantime, so gaining 2 positions. It's not bad going for the Rebound racing car near at the back of the field.
Yeah, good timing there for Thibaut Roskam to catch up to this kind of pack of what was 2 between, of course, Les Stevenson and Kevin Boss, and Thibaut Roskam, sorry, able to, of course, Les Stevenson and Roskam, sorry, on cold tyres. Remember, no tyre blankets on the Super Trofeo cars, so Les Stevenson will spend the next 2 laps trying to get them up to temperature. Meanwhile, of course, Thibaut Roskam and Lily Armstrong on hot tyres, so they're going to get a bit of an advantage this time, as Kevin Boss is going to have to go defensive into turn number 8. Doesn't look like Lily's car has any more top end once she ducks out of the slipstream, so having to pull back in behind Kevin Boss. Les Stevenson doing quite well to try and hold on to the Super Trofeo on cold tyres. Meanwhile, just ahead, we've got Romagnuc, Armstrong running themselves a bit too deep in turn number 9. Of course, Romagnuc coming out ahead. That's actually Aaron Jackson, sorry, not Grim. Grim's, of course, at the head of the field behind Adam Romagnuc. So that's where they are currently. And Romagnuc, of course, jumping Les Stevenson in the pit stop, as we'd expect, with the 10-second time penalty for the number 46. So the wrong has been done right, essentially, in the eyes of race positioning. Meanwhile, Jackson looking to the outside of Kevin Boss, although can't do anything with it. Going to have to tuck back in as they begin the run down towards the first couple of turns. Badowski has kept the lead on the road, essentially, from the cars that have pitted. So that's very good to see. Damien Lowe, Tom Shipston, and of course the lead duo of Rebound cars yet to come down the pit lane. 26 minutes left on the pit window, so still plenty of time, but we were expecting the majority of the field to split the race in half today, and that is exactly what's happened as Lily Armstrong goes for the late lunge. There's contact between Romagnuc and Armstrong, and Armstrong facing backwards. Romagnuc's going to shortcut turn number 5 and come out halfway through turn number 6, essentially, on that one. That isn't what we want to see here, but Romagnuc, big advantage now all the way out onto the Mistral from that one. Let's catch a race replay. We kind of catch the tail end of it, but Romagnuc all the way out to the Armco through the inside of turn number 6, and then begins to accelerate towards 7 for the run out towards the Mistral straight. So I'd say a bit of an advantage gained from Adam Romagnuc in all of that chaos, and we'll have to see how Stewart's stewards tend to that one. We'll keep an eye on the live reporting system. But for now, lots of racing incident, minor contacts, and only 2 time penalties, which have already been served. So should in theory, Joe, die down in the middle of the race, as we normally say, but it never quite does with these Lamborghinis. There's 2 more cars into the lane. Damien Lowe and Tom Shipston leaving your leading duo of Joe Dorber and Nico Kumpu for rebound, coming to serve their final or their only pit stop. Badowski into P4. Let's see if he'll be able to jump Tom Shipston. Of course, the tyre blankets kicking in. I think that's Badowski coming out through turn number 5. So managing to jump Shipston. He's slipped down to P number 7. And Badowski coming under fire now from Raphael Huell in the number 21, just as he thought he kind of got it all done. Of course, the pit stop cycle happens, and Raphael Huell closing up on to Badowski. The stop was a little bit quicker for Huell, 106.8 versus Badowski's 107.2. So not a massive margin in it, but still enough to keep Huell in line. And you remember last time, Dorber being gifted the position by Huell. Is Huell a bit of an undercover rebound agent going the long way around down towards turn number 8? And I know that Badowski is on a slightly higher wing level, so made it look rather easy, but Badowski has to pressure now Huell into making that mistake to try and give up that position, or alternatively, in this last sector, Joe, hold him up, because both the rebound cars also in the pit lane. So if Huell can hold Badowski, we could see Dorber and Kumpu keeping the lead of this race.
Yeah, they've got to work together now. It's a crucial point of the race for these two, and they just don't want to trip over each other. If they do trip over each other, that could be game over in terms of the battle for the race victory as they head around the final couple of corners, as you've got the top 2 in this field in the pit lane. Where are they going to come out in relation to the 2 rebound racing cars that went for huge overcuts in this race about 10 minutes later than Marco Badowski? But now they head out of the pit lane. Badowski goes through, so does Raphael Huell on one, but not the other. It's a rebound racing sandwich. Joe Dorber takes the lead of this race. Nico Kumpu drops down to 4th place, and in the middle of them, Huell and Badowski are there. So that has been played almost perfectly as they've brought themselves right back into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's opened up the fight at the front of the field, essentially, for these guys. And Raphael Huell under pressure from Badowski. He was the fastest car last time by. It's a 53.977 for Raphael Huell. Of course, bonus points are awarded for pole position and fastest lap, but the number 21 looking rather fast compared to the 777 of Joe Dorber as they head side by side down the Mistral Straight once again. Huell going to have to go the long way around in the slippier car. Joe Dorber pinching Huell towards the outside, trying to minimize the gap, doesn't want to give him a single ounce of room as they dab the brakes down a gear in towards turn 9. Of course, a poorer run for Huell will bring Badowski into it as they head up towards turn 9, and Huell's misjudged the braking a little bit, has to take avoiding action to avoid running into the back of Joe Dorber, and he's now on the high side of turn number 9. That's allowed Badowski through, but only momentarily, as the outside becomes the inside for turn number 10. Huell parks it on the apex, but Badowski still with a good run through turn number 10 and 11. Down towards 12 they'll go. It'll be the inside line for Huell, the outside for Badowski, but that will again switch for the final corner. But Badowski runs himself too deep, tries to do the overcut, I think, the old up and under, and can't get it done by turn 13. So Huell will hold on to P2 and Badowski keeping P3, but meanwhile it's allowed Joe Dorber to open up the gap at the front of the field to nearly 7/10 for the 777.
Yes, that could be huge, as that means the slipstream effect will not be quite as powerful as it would have been if he was right in behind. And well, now they are only a couple of corners away from the big long straight, and that could be crucial in this one as Joe Dorber tries to eke out that gap just that little bit more, using everything he's got, but it hasn't quite worked, and he's been reeled right back in by Raphael Huell, who's done well in the first sector to just close back in, and now it's his opportunity to try and attack once again. I think that gap's about 0.5 of a second. Indeed it is 0.596 as it was when they crossed the last sector, and Dorber just trying to break that slipstream. Huel not quite able to get into that slipstream just yet, but if he does anything like what we saw with Les Stevenson earlier, it'll be right at the end of the straight where he can take that advantage, and heading into the third sector where he can take the advantage, but he's not close enough. I think he set himself up more for the cornering first and third sectors rather than the big long straight in the second sector, and so he will sit in behind as Nico Kumpu tries to close in and pressure Marco Badowski. He feels as though he's much quicker, and he's going to try and get on through at some point soon. We've seen this frustration before earlier in the race, once again with the Stevenson Will, who struggled to get past Les, and hopefully Nico Kumpu, for him, he's going to be wanting to get through on Badowski as soon as he possibly can, and then launch his attack on Raphael Huel. The ideal situation here for Rebound Racing is 1-2, but I'm not sure how close they are to getting that, with Huel and Badowski being very quick drivers. Jackson looking around the outside of Kevin Boss, but doesn't quite get the traction down, and has to sit in behind with Lily Armstrong in there as well. The two Cali police cars in a police chase for Kevin Boss.
Yeah, the Kaiju Send investigation unit certainly hot on the heels of Kevin Boss in the number 31, even running in flying formation now as they begin to change positions. We're kind of got Aaron Jackson still towards the inside, Lily Armstrong towards the outside, and Kevin Boss absolutely sweating buckets. The police force are hot on his heels as they head through the final sector. Pit lane still open, or pit window still open, just over 18.5 minutes on the clock. But every car in the field so far has cleared their mandatory stop, so we'll see no more pit lane action for today in theory. Fastest times on the board being a 106.4 by the looks of it, just having a quick scan down the list. That's to Joe Dorber. Nico Kumpu running a 106.401. So very small margins between the two. That's measured from pit in to pit out, as we see Nico Kumpu now in the slipstream of Badowski, and he is just a sitting duck on the Mistral straight. Meanwhile, towards the front though, Raphael Huel having a pop at Joe Dorber in the 777, tries to go the long way around. We know that Huel's car is very slick. We've seen Kumpu's car certainly slick indeed in a straight line, and Raphael Huel having to drop back in behind Joe Dorber as they head through turn number 9. The battle's still very much alive, although broken up this time into two duos, essentially two rebound cars having to fend off Oregon team and Team Monkey Racing on their endeavors towards the front. Of course, Raphael Huel still keeps the fastest lap of the race. That's come down even more. It was a 1:53.9. It's now down to a 1:53.5, and the nearest time in the list is going to be from Joe Dorber, 53.8 last time by 53.8 on his fastest lap. Nico Kumpu 53.9. So Huel certainly got the pace in that car. Under 20 minutes to go. Is it going to be enough to get past Joe Dorber? Oh, I think Dorber is going to be kind of making that car as wide as he possibly can do.
I think it's fair to say as well that these two are going to be the main contenders for this race. Kumpu and Badowski just tripping over each other a little bit too much in this race, and well, the top two have the opportunity now to try and fight for this race lead. If they do fight too hard though, that will allow Kumpu and Badowski back into it, and don't forget how good they are and how quick they are and how well they're going to be able to fight with Dorber and Huel. Dorber once again trying to break the slipstream down the straight. Huel not yielding, just following him through as they head down. That's a third weave down the straight just to try and break that slipstream, but it hasn't quite worked. Huel sitting in it once again, 2 tenths back. Kumpu 1.1 seconds back off of Huel. Badowski 1.2 seconds back on Kumpu. So somewhere in that last lap, or potentially just in the race in general, Badowski has fallen off as Aaron Jackson scraps over P14 with Lily Armstrong. But Lily sending herself wide out, breaking herself, and doing well to stay out of the back of the number 99. These two are going to fight for the last couple of positions, with Lowe not fighting here today. Well, he is, but not in the fight at least here today. And well, he's off the back of these two. So these two fighting over the penultimate position, in fact, 14th and 15th, as they head down to the main straight for the 21st time.
Yeah, absolutely. So lap 22 begins just over 16 minutes left on the clock. Of course, the track temperature has risen a single degree since we've dropped the green flag. 20 degrees in the air, 20 degrees down on the track. So hopefully not too many kind of overcooked tires at this current moment in time. Meanwhile, the Kaiju police cars, let's have a look what's happened here down into turn number 9. We're going for drift of the day, as I think that's Lily Armstrong running themselves up the banking. Aaron Jackson slipping on through on the underside in the number 99, and it is confirmed there on the timing tower towards the left-hand side of the screen. So Kevin Boss gets a bit of a breather from the Kaiju police as they manage to drop off the back. Meanwhile, back to the front, Joe Dorber still trying to break the toe, weaving left and right down the Mistral straight. Knows how fast Huell's car can be in a straight line, so certainly wants to break that as much as he can. Nico Kumpu, though, on the back of them, hot on the heels. Gap opening up ever so slightly down the Mistral, but not a massive amount. And Badowski struggling now in P4. 2.3 seconds to the good. You see him just in the back, a shot there. I think too much wing is going to be plaguing him today. And, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, Joe? What could I have done different? And it's certainly going to be running a lower wing level, much like some of the opponents on the circuit today. Some very slick race cars out there, but also going to be a bit of a handful. So still 15 minutes on the clock. We, of course, don't know which driver is sat on how many track limits. And Huell, very brave on the brakes into turn number 12. Runs himself a bit deep. Almost treats it like a double apex left-hander. But back to my point, we don't know what the track limit status is for a lot of these drivers. They could all be running on their final track limit for 15 minutes. And, you know, if you've banked a few in the race so far, if you're only on one, you've certainly got a few to use creatively towards a defense. Of course, carry a bit more speed through turn 2, carry a bit more speed out of turn 8, and you might do just enough to claw onto that position come the checkered flag.
Yes, they're just trying to claw anything out with just a quarter of an hour to go in this race session, and Joe Dorber clawing onto that race lead now as Marco Badowski has dropped off of the pack, almost 3 seconds back from the top 3. Christian Benz trying to close in on Will Stevenson for that 5th place as well. Of course, those top 4 were close together. 5th is being hotly contested as Stevenson goes off slightly and dips a tyre into the only gravel trap in the circuit, but Benz can't take advantage as he didn't lose actually that much time at all, and now tries to close back in and fight for this 5th place, the best of the rest, I would call it, as these top 4 have been so quick. Raphael Huell doing well to keep it out of the bollard there, as that looked like a particularly tetchy moment from him. As we've got a race replay here of what happened with Raphael Huell, just looking as though he's run a little bit wide and then avoiding all of those little bollards on the bottom. So Raphael Huell getting very, very tentative through there, and could have been tentative again or missed his breaking point, because Nico Kumpu looks to attack around the outside of the final couple of corners. But Huell managing to hold on to the position, and even though he outbraked himself into the corner, it was a chicane, so it didn't really matter how he entered that first corner. There we go, as that is Will Stevenson dropping the position to Christian Benz, and well, Benz now in 5th place, as that is somebody going very, very wide off the circuit. Thibaut Roskam dropping the position to Les Stevenson, as Romagnoc and Stevenson fight away for that 10th place.
Yeah, still lots of fights going on up and down the field. Indeed, Raphael Huell dropping nearly a second now, though, to Joe Dorber. Nico Kumpu still on the back, as we see Will Stevenson with a big load of understeer, puts himself around Christian Benz and has a kind of half lazy spin in the middle of turn number 12. That allows Tom Shipston to go through as well. So Christian Benz in the number 15 GOAT Racing car, certainly doing very well indeed to navigate his way up towards the top 5 now, as Les Stevenson has the control of the train once again. Romagnoc not going to forget what was done to him earlier on, I'm sure, and Roskam in the back of shot as well. And Nico Kumpu changing positions with Raphael Huell, which I kind of expected to happen, Joe, after we saw Huell giving a position to Dorber at the end of the Monza race last week. I don't think Huell was ever going to make it too hard on Kumpu and Dorber. I think if he got past Dorber, so be it. If not, would have just fallen kind of into line and allowed to happen, whatever happens towards the checkered flag. Romaniuk losing another position though. Theobald Roskam now up into P11, although don't discount the Polish driver yet, the number 29 with some mega straight line speed up towards turn number 8, chooses the outside line. Roskam towards the inside, has to try and force his hand to move Romaniuk over to put him on the wider line, and Roskam not following suit, plonking it in the middle of the road. Romaniuk around the outside, just about keeps it the right side of the bollards, and Roskam with the inside line towards turn number 9, and we know how awkward the outside line of 9 can be, although Romaniuk able to get the front end to bite, tries to go underneath to open up the outside line into turn 10, but just can't get enough drive off the corner. Meanwhile, the Send Investigation unit catching up now to Kevin Boss. That's going to be an outside line move for Lily Armstrong. Can they make it stick as they run themselves off turn number 10? Kevin Boss will have the inside, but doesn't put up too much of a fight, and Kevin Boss now tucking back into line, although missing his breaking point for turn 12. That runs him out towards the marbles, and Aaron Jackson lurking somewhere behind. There he is, not close enough to make a move into turn 13, but certainly that's going to shake up Kevin Boss a little bit as they head towards the final 10 minutes of this race.
Yes, and it's all about the mind games in some of these races, especially when you get down to the crunch moments, because one mistake at this point could cost you a race, whereas one mistake earlier on you may be able to get away with it, but no such luck here today, especially with just under 10 minutes left on the clock, and trying to avoid those bollards once again for these drivers. And well, Nico Kumpu not necessarily successful, Raphael Huell even less successful, as I think before it was just a catch of a snap of oversteer, but now he's right behind Kumpu, who's right behind Dorber, and these three are going to scrap it out to the finish line. It's a shame not to see Badowski in the battle, because those top 4 have been so much quicker than everybody else the whole race long, but Badowski, I'm sure, will take a 4th place in this race, especially considering he can literally coast to the end now, 21 seconds ahead of Ben's. Aaron Jackson in the meantime fighting Kevin Boss, looking around the outside. He won't get the slipstream effect, which means he won't be necessarily as fast, but looking around the outside, nope, not going for the move, just tucking back in and staying in behind. But Aaron Jackson really trying to threaten Kevin Boss at the moment, but there's not anywhere he can get through as it stands. Nico Kumpu would be, if he was able to win this race, taking home his 2nd victory in this series, by the way, and we could have a fascinating championship battle on our hands, as the top 4 in the championship are 1st, 2nd, 3rd, no, the top 5 in the championship even, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 7th. So Will Stevenson dropping a little bit, but we know what he's capable of. We could have 5 drivers in this one. The driver in 6th as well in the championship is in 5th in this race, so this championship could really heat up, and well, every minute counts, as we've only got 5 races in this season, so every single point will count here in Paul Ricard. And as we head towards the end of this race, Dorber, Kumpu and Huell will try and scrap it out over the top points position.
Yeah, absolutely so. And you know, the most kind of minute of points can mean everything by the time we get to the final round, as we head down under for the final round at Bathurst, where we take these cars. Next week we head to Watkins Glen. The week after, Laguna Seca, before finishing out May 26th down under on the mountain, and that's going to be a rather interesting one to watch indeed. Mid-season sign-ups are available for this championship, so if you do want to head on over to the website racerci.com, you can find a link down below. You should see all of the events with mid-season sign-ups, including the LMGT Sprint Series in LMU, Night Owl Hyper Sprint also with sign-ups open. There's still space in the iRacing RSS Endurance Series, 53 out of 60 teams signed up for that one. Super Trofeo, of course, plenty of space on the calendar for you. And of course, World Tour Open as well, with the 24 Hours of Nürburgring open for the mid-season one-off event, where if you do want to enter, sign up to that one. Of course, anybody in the World Tour list will be counted for the championship. Anyone in the one-offs won't be. So it should be rather interesting seeing a few invitational entries dropping in and out, and how that might affect the World Tour standings as they get towards the end. Aaron Jackson's car looks a bit of a handful in these final dying minutes of the race, sliding through near enough every corner through the last sector, trying to keep itself in check and keep those Pirelli tires alive for a little bit longer. Joe Dorber still at the front though, half a second. His teammate Nico Kumpu within earshot. That's come down by about 0.3 through the first sector. Raphael Huell dropping off the back of the lead rebound cars, 1.2 seconds to the good. And Badowski just not enough top speed to keep himself in the fight, 5.4 seconds off the back. We then got a big gap back to Christian Benz, still waiting for that one to come through as he tries to get himself towards the next sector line, and he does so. 21 seconds to the good Christian Benz in, I would say, the ultimate John Dalton zone, but Tom Shipston just behind, 1.9 seconds to the good for Shipston. So looking at the last lap time, Shipston is quicker than Benz. Last lap was about half a second gain, so there's only a few more laps in the race. Has Shipston got enough in him to take another position out of Christian Benz? That is the question for the RPMS driver. We could see a late change in position towards the dying end of the race. And more interestingly, Joe, will we see team orders coming in from Rebound Racing, or will Nico Kumpu allow Joe Dorber to take the top step of the podium this time out?
The way they've driven so far in this race, you wouldn't think so, as that's a mistake from Joe Dorber. Nico can't take advantage, and he's just going to have to sit in behind, as the gap that they built up to Raphael Huell will now come down. Huge mistake there from Joe Dorber, who's just allowed an easy, what looked like, Rebound Racing 1-2 to be cost, and Raphael Huell is going to be back within range of these top two drivers, you would think, as they head down the straight. Not quite as close as they could have been, but now is the chance to see whether they will be employing team orders side by side as they head down the straight. And Nico Kumpu heads through into P1, but Joe Dorber trying to hold the inside line. No team orders here for Rebound Racing, and the 256 and the 777 both fighting away in this third sector. This closes up even more the gap between them and Raphael Huell. It's Nico Kumpu who has to settle for P2. Joe Dorber takes that P1 back. This is going to be an intriguing last few laps here in Paul Ricard.
Yeah, very much so. Rebound Racing allowing their drivers to fight amongst themselves in the dying stages of the race. But got to be careful, because Raphael Huell is just behind, and I'm not sure if he'll be kind enough as he was during the Monza race in the last lap or so. We'll have to see what happens here. We're rolling on to what could be kind of 2 laps to go territory right about now, if my quick comms box math is anything to go by. And we do have another time penalty coming in. That's for Adam Romaniuk, and that's for lap 17, turn 4, involving the 88 and the 29, where of course we saw Lily Armstrong clattering into the side of them through turn number 4. Adam Romaniuk 5 seconds for avoidable contact, and then proceeds to receive a warning for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So stewards could have put 10 seconds quite easily there, but giving Adam Romaniuk a bit of a break, and actually 5 seconds just coming through as I say that. Lap 24, turn 11, involving the 96 and the 29. That's Theobald Roskam. Another 5 seconds for Adam Romaniuk for avoidable contact. So it's all gone from kind of bad to worse for Romaniuk this evening, as of course earlier contact with Les Stevenson put him around, and now a 10-second time penalty in the late stages. So that's probably going to drop him just behind Kevin Boss, but remain him just ahead of Aaron Jackson. So unfortunately, with how the cars are positioned at this moment in time, it's going to be a couple of places lost. And Raphael Huell not close enough to Kumpu to take advantage, and equally Joe Dorber has pulled off enough of a gap to kind of shuffle Nico Kumpu out of contention from making a late dive. So Just over 2 minutes on the clock. I think we'll just about get to the line for another 2. I could be corrected on that one. I don't think we will, actually. This next lap will be the final lap of the race, Joe, so it's going to have to be decided in the next 2 minutes. Will Nico Kumpu take advantage of his teammate? Will his teammate be rather kind and gift him the position? Or will we see Raphael Huell sweeping around the outside of a few corners and sweeping the Rebound Racing team towards the lower step of the podium?
Well, we will have to wait and see as we head on to the last lap of this race, and we've got 2 Rebound Racing cars in there. Raphael Huell as well trying to hold on there, but you'd think that he's not quite close enough. However, the fighting that we saw from the 2 Rebound Racing cars was something to behold, and also something that allowed Raphael Huell to get back into this battle. But you would imagine, as we're on to the last lap of this race now, it's going to be between the 2 Rebound Racing cars for the race victory. Kumpu chases Dorber as they head down the long back straight for the final time, and Raphael Huell, only 6/10 back, is going to try and stay within range. It's not going to be close enough until they head to the back end of this straight, as Dorber trying to break the slipstream like he has done so many times before, but this time he's just going to have to tuck in eventually, and he tucks in to the inside as Kumpu closes in. You can see how much closer the Rebound Racing car is going to get. Dorber takes the outside line. Kumpu does as well, and so he's not going to be able to make his way through on this occasion. This looks as though Joe Dorber may just have this race victory in the bag.
Yeah, he may have done just enough to fend off his teammates. A few corners remaining. Turn 9 out of 13. They now head towards turn 10. And Nico Kumpu certainly not close enough unless a mistake is made by Joe Dorber. And in the background, Huell gets a poor run off of turn 10. So that cements Kumpu into the middle of the 2 cars that we've got on your screens at the moment. I think Joe Dorber has done just enough this afternoon to take the victory as they sweep round turn 13. Nico Kumpu not close enough to get it done in the dying stages. It will be Joe Dorber taking victory here at round 2, followed very closely by teammate Nico Kumpu, and Raphael Huell will take the final step of the podium with the fastest lap to his name as well. So a few more bonus points sprinkled in. Meanwhile, Andy Boardman trying to make up a late position on Mike Redford towards the outside of 10. He went, not enough grip on the marbles, and understeering out wide. Redford might just hold on to this one as they come through towards turn 12 out of 13. I think it's going to be just enough for Redford as Will Stevenson just ahead in the number 108 clings on to P5. Tom Shipston didn't manage to catch Christian Benz. Benz comes through in P4. Andy Boardman with the old wiggle over the line into a spin. Again, what could have been for Boardman, just not gelling very well with the Super Trofeo platform here today. And Kevin Boss, providing he doesn't outbrake himself, he has overtaken Aaron Jackson in these last dying stages as well as they head through turn 13. Lots of curb for Kevin Boss. It's going to be a bad run for him, but Aaron Jackson puts himself into the anti-cut curbs and demolishes the pace. Kevin Boss holds on to P13, Aaron Jackson P14, and Damian Lowe, your last car to finish today. He's heading through turn number 9 in the number 97 Low Speed Racing. Done a lot better than last time out on Monza, of course, being turned around by friend and fellow Peter Varga in the second chicane. That put him off to a bad start to the season, but Damian Lowe clawing on to what will be, I think, P16. We've had a few drivers leave the server, but still, it's a good haul of points nonetheless for the Singaporean driver, as usually see him on the Night Owl circuit, but making his way to Mondays for the Super Trofeo, so great to see there. And I was right, P16 for Damian Lowe. Peter Lundqvist disconnecting due to his internet. Going to try again next week and see what happens there. But on your screens at the moment, of course, pending any further post-race penalties that may come, that is your final order. And Romaniuk with the 10-second time penalty, of course, shuffling him down the order. Joe Dorber, Nico Kumpu, and Raphael Huell take the top steps of the podium and propel themselves through into their championship fights. And it was always going to be a good haul of points on the table today, Joe. Low numbers normally means that you do set yourselves up quite well. P17 would have got 14 points, all the way up to P1 at 65 points. So that kind of mid-pack you get yourselves up a little bit more than maybe expected, especially in the realms of Christian Benz and Tom Shipston. P5 and P6 for them, so going to be a good start, especially to Tom Shipston's championship.
Yes, certainly so. And well, all of these drivers taking some nice points away from this race. I think the championship is going to be really, really interesting. I really, really do. You've got 5 drivers up there with the pace to win it. You've got drivers as well, not too far off, the likes of Christian Benz, who could find their way into it if they like the tracks that are coming up. And so they, it's going to be a very intriguing championship, and I think it's going to go right down to the wire. Don't forget as well that we will be on every single Monday for the next 3 Mondays as well. You've got Watkins Glen, the next round of the season. Laguna Seca just after that. And then the final round of the season will be at Bathurst in Australia. So 3 very, very good circuits, 3 very historic circuits, and 3 circuits that should play host to one of the best championships that you can see at this point in time. You've got 5, potentially 6 drivers who have the pace to win this championship, and well, it should be very, very exciting.
Yeah, it should be very exciting indeed, as you alluded to, Joe. Still 3 rounds to go, and that's every single Monday for the next 3 weeks. So we'll have to keep an eye out on to how the championship progresses. Like I say, plenty of points still on the table. Still room for mid-season sign-ups if you do want to take part in the Super Trofeo. We do allow, of course, one-off entries, essentially. If you only want to run the final round at Bathurst, so be it. Sign up for round 5 on the website and get involved with us here at RCI. As I alluded to earlier in the broadcast, plenty of events on the website. LMGT Sprint Series, Night Owl Hyper Sprint, your 2 LMU events. We've got the iRacing RSS Endurance Series, also with spaces there as well. Super Trofeo, again, lots of space in that one. And of course, World Tour / the Nürburgring 24-hour kind of merging in to one event to allow one-off sign-ups on that one. Of course, a big thank you to our partners. They've been revolving around in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Ready, Set, Sim, Coach Dave Delta, Green Man Gaming, IMB Racewear, Motor Racing, and of course, Motorsport UK Esports, where we're a recommended community. So be sure to check those guys out. All of their links are down below in the description, including a few affiliate links to help us with the penny pot here at RCI. Of course, next broadcast will be myself or it won't be myself, actually. It will be Jesse and Joe with Ash Bibby back behind the cameras. I'm unfortunately away next week, so can't make that one. I'll be back from, of course, round 4, so the following week after that one. That leads us nicely into Laguna Seca before we round out the following week at Bathurst. So still plenty to play for in this championship. Race results will, of course, be posted on the website later on today. We hope you've enjoyed the evening here today with the Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars. Of course, the second season now that we take these cars around the circuit on ACC. So be sure to get your name down for that one. Again, big thank you to all of our partners. Big thank you to everybody at home, whether you've lurked, you've listened in, or you've been watching along since the beginning. We thank you very much indeed for any likes, subs, follows, and all of that good stuff. So it is that time. We do say farewell. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and you can, of course, catch Ash, Jesse, and Joe next week as they head to Watkins Glen for round 3 of Super Trofeo. Take care.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. hearts in sync.